Frank Manzo here, Joe Omega. Hope you guys can see me. There we go. The camera's back, and we're back live after Raw. Hope you guys enjoyed our Raw review. Just went through some stuff. Obviously previewed Money in the Bank coming up this Sunday.
We will be there live.
Live in Boston. Going to be a great pay-per-view. But now we switch to something entirely different. This is a huge interview. Something I am so proud of, and I know Joe is. This is truly like a hometown hero thing for us. Guy who comes from Long Island just like we do. Started up owning the video store, doing a great wrestling radio show out of here. Getting into WWE, working his way up from the magazine to eventually sitting in Vince's house every week, writing the television. The former head writer of WWE, former head writer of WCW. I'm talking about Vince Russo. Vince, are you there with us?
I'm here, fellas. What's going on?
What's up, man?
Not too much.
Rock and roll music you boys are listening to during the break?
That's our great producer, Chris Cash. He's got a hell of a track list.
If Chris was looking out for my best interest, he would have been playing Rihanna, but I could talk to him about that later on.
Hey, listen, we're going to have to touch on that because I'm loving this new website, by the way, and I think everybody should check it daily because it's got some great stuff. pyroandballyhoo.com, and I saw you did your little revamped review of the Maxim Top 100, and Vince Russo is a big Rihanna fan. He had her ranked #1. I saw that.
Big Rihanna fan. Got to go see her over here at the Pepsi Center. I think it was back in November. Yeah, I love her music. I love her. I think she's the best.
Definitely. So, Vince, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about your career a little bit. I want to ask you some stuff on a couple of things with current WWE, and obviously people want to know about a couple of situations.
Anybody ever tell you got a heavy New York accent, bro? You got to clean that thing up for crying. I can barely understand you.
Oh, wow. Coming from you, that is hardcore because me and Joe were talking before, and I said I think Vince has us top totally when it comes to
I don't know about that.
And I definitely try to clean mine up on the air.
Heavy.
Yeah, listen, we just got done making Sunday sauce over here yesterday, Vince. So, now we're going to do a little wrestling tonight. Did you get a chance to watch 3 hours of Raw tonight?
Yeah, man. I saw, I got to say, I saw pretty much most of it. I was on Twitter during the show, and, basically because my following count was going up, I stayed for the 3 hours, and that's probably the first time I've watched that much of the show. Yeah.
And I know it, probably is a little rough for you to get through 3 hours. And I know you're a big advocate that it's, way too long. And Joe and I usually agree, even when there is a fantastic show, it almost seems like you could still cut 60 minutes out of it. And, I listened to one of your interviews where you mentioned that where, the attention span, obviously, in our country and the way of life these days has gone way down. And they don't, they just can't put on a stellar 3 hour product. And I think anybody would have a hard time doing that these days. What did you like about tonight? What did you hate, if anything?
I think it's twofold. And, it's like I want to make one thing very clear because, I don't want to come across like, I'm bitter towards the WWE because I don't work there. It was 15 freaking years ago. That means nothing to me. 3 hours of anything is too freaking long. I'm sorry. Like when I go to the movie theater, I look at how long a movie is. I really do. And even if I want to see the movie badly, if that movie's over 2 hours, I won't go see the movie because I know I'll fall asleep during the movie. So the one thing I want to make clear of, the 3 hour thing isn't a Raw issue. I can watch a Rihanna concert for 3 hours. That's probably about it, but Wade Barrett is no Rihanna, so it's a whole different ball game. But also too, and you pointed it out, man. At the end of the day, I get it. It's business, they're getting paid the money from USA Network to put on a 3 hour show. I totally get it. What I have a problem with is when I watch the 3 hour show and they're obviously just trying to fill the time. That's what I have a problem with because, if I was there still writing the show, I would try to fill the 3 hours, Spaldings to the wall for all 3 hours. That's what I would try to do. So the part to me that's just a little aggravating is man, if you're contractually obligated to give them 3 hours and you're getting paid to give them 3 hours, give them 3 hours. Don't replay what happened in the opening segment to nauseum and just, stretch out ring entrances, stretch out when the match is over. I mean, man, it's, who's got the patience for that? I mean, I know I don't.
No, it's
commercials on top of that.
Yeah, it is getting a little too much, and it's funny that you say that about the movies, Vince, because Joe and I do the same thing.
Yeah, man. But who doesn't? Yeah. Everybody does that in this day and age, man. It's just there's just so much out there and so much to do, and you have so many options. Like I said, it's not a Raw issue to give 3 hours of your life to anything. I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot of time. It really is. But again, on the other hand, I don't think they're expecting, people to sit there and watch it for 3 hours. I mean, I think they're assuming people are going in and out. I mean, they have to be, because I'd love to know the percentage that sits there for 3 hours,
Now, let me ask you something. It's interesting you bring that up. What was the perception backstage when you were working for the company, when it was back during the Attitude Era and it was 2 hours? Did you guys expect people to watch the whole show?
Oh, absolutely. Bro, here's the difference. And it's funny, man, because like I did Austin's podcast yesterday, and I hadn't talked to Austin in like 15 years. But this is the God honest truth, When I wrote the show, it was a blessing that we were head to head with Nitro, because when we sat there and wrote our show, we wrote it as if, we were writing it with a remote control in our hands. And we would write it in such a way that we would not give you one opportunity to flip off of our show and go watch Monday Night Nitro. I mean, that's how we wrote the show. Man, if you did that test today with like what we saw tonight, I'm sorry, man, there's just no way. And it's like I said, it's not a personal thing. It's not a knock at Raw, but they certainly don't give me any reason to watch it for 3 hours.
Yeah, Vince, so with that, we have a question from the chat room from some of our listeners. Kind of the same thing going on. Do you ever think that pro wrestling will reach the height it was from like 97 to 2002 without real serious competition? Like you said, you're sitting there writing a show with the remote control in your hand because you're going against Monday Nitro. Now, who's Raw going against anyway?
No, man, I got to tell you, a guy that worked for Vince McMahon as closely as I did, and then, I went back there almost in 2002. And I mean, I can tell you from experience, in my opinion, the Vince McMahon before the purchase of WCW was a different Vince McMahon. The Vince McMahon I worked for was a freaking killer. I mean, he would do anything to be number one. He would slice your throat, rip your eyes out. It didn't matter. When I went back and I met with him in 2002, he was a different guy. And I remember I even said to Vince, where is your bravado? What happened? And I think once he was able to buy WCW, which I think was a tremendous goal of his ultimate goal. Everybody knows the history with him and Ted Turner. When that happened, I think after that, there was nothing else. It was like, what else could Vince possibly combat and defeat in his life? It's so much. I'm a big sports guy. And I'm sure you guys are too, and like I'm a San Francisco Giant fan, and it's kind of like the same thing, man. When a team wins the World Series, the next year they suck. I mean, that's almost every single year, because it's once you attain that achievement, it's like it's downhill from there. So, like, I really think Vince lost a lot of his competitive edge once he bought WCW. So, no, I don't know what could ever possibly bring it back to, that time with that kind of energy and that kind of product. I don't know what that would be.
And it's interesting you bring up the 2002 trip that you had back to WWE. We know that didn't work out, and that was because there was a major change in how creative is done in the company since obviously you and only a few people sat around Vince's pool writing TV in the late 90s. Probably guys like Jim Cornette for a little while, Bill Pritchard, Jim Ross, guys like that.
Bro, it wasn't even that. I mean,
Wasn't even that, yeah.
It was me and Vince, and then we added Ed. That's it.
Exactly.
There was no Pritchard. There was no Ross. There was no Cornette. It was me and Ed working together, and then bringing the show to Vince. End of story. And
Gotcha.
Today, I can't even imagine working in that type of environment. I remember, when I went back in 2002. Keep in mind, the ratings were cut in half. I mean, from when I left to 2002, they were cut in half. And I remember Vince looking at me and him saying to me, because this is like when I left, they became public. Okay, that didn't happen while I was there. So I remember sitting down with him and him saying to me, Vince, you have to understand, we're a public company now. Things are different. And I remember looking him right in the eye and saying, yeah, Vince, but the change isn't working. You change the structure of the way television is writing. You've cut the rating in half. So I understand it's not the same, but you didn't make it better. You made it worse. And the reality of it was that was 2002. To this day, those ratings have maintained. They're in the same place. I mean, nothing has changed. So I don't know what would have to happen to get back to those days. I don't.
Yeah, no, and what I was getting to with that, I don't know if you keep up with a lot of wrestling news sites and other than that, but in the past week, a story came out that during the firings last week, some people were let go in WWE, and one of them was the current head writer of Monday Night Raw, and apparently the guy who was fired didn't really know much about the product at all. Now, you think of the past guys like you, Ed, before you guys, Cornette, Pritchard, guys like that, all wrestling business guys, even you coming from being also a movie buff, but yeah, you grew up with, I know you've talked about Chief Jay Strongbow, all those guys, watching them as a kid. You were a wrestling guy. Can you imagine the state of creative backstage right now that a guy who doesn't know anything about wrestling is the head writer of Raw?
Bro, I got to tell you, and bro, I don't have any idea who's writing there, okay? But like, as far as I'm concerned, bro, I've said this a million times. I'm not going to attack or criticize anybody's creative, okay? Because I've been through that, okay? And I hated that because nobody can understand what it is to write a weekly television show 52 weeks out of the year. Nobody can understand that. All those dirt sheets and the websites and not everybody, but there's a selected few. They can kiss my rump because they have no idea what it takes, right? So because I know what it takes, I will never criticize anybody that was bad. But, if you were following me on the Twitter today, the one thing that drove me crazy was just the small fundamental wrestling 101. The hottest guy they've got on that show right now is Bray Wyatt. And you've got a tag team of 7 guys out there. So first of all, you're making Bray Wyatt now one of 7 guys. So now all of a sudden, he's like everybody else, and he's not special anymore. Okay? Then, bro, to not even give him the last introduction, to introduce, what is his name? Gino Bravo? That guy? Gino Bravo?
Del Rio.
Whatever. To introduce him after a Bray Wyatt, like, to me, like, I'm sorry, bro, like, there's no excuse for that. That's not creative. That's fundamental, man. That's 101. How do you not bring this guy out last, kill the lights, have that effect in the crowd with all the lights, and let the guy do something devastating off the bat? But to just the whole presentation, what you just said about the guy not being a wrestling guy, I mean, does not surprise me, because you can't be in the wrestling business and make a mistake like that. And I'll be honest with you, where's freaking Vince? I mean, everybody. I'm like, Vince was this great filter. When I was writing the shows, where the freak was he tonight to not send Bray Wyatt? Bro, if you watch that match and you saw Bray standing on the apron, the guy was lost. The guy didn't know how to act. He couldn't be his character because there's 3 other guys in the corner. Man, when you have somebody like that, you have to protect that guy. You can't expose him like that. And I mean, what they did tonight, I'm like, either they don't see the talent in that guy, or, I mean, they just don't understand the basics of wrestling, because that's basic stuff, bro.
Well, back to WWE, Vince.
That's a little bit of a rant there, wasn't it, pretty much?
Perfect. We're very happy to have you
Not
rant.
bad for this time of night, pretty much, right? Late at night, I'm ranting like this after watching that for 3 hours. Go ahead.
It happens every week.
Bro, what about the shirt? Can you put this over?
Did you buy that from Jim Cornette's website?
Yes. No, this is on my website, baby. This is for sale. I'm going to make money off of this now.
Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. I don't want to hijack your shit.
No, you actually are getting a lot of love in the chat room from the Fire Russo shirt. They are liking it.
And if you want to rant every Monday after you watch Raw, you come right
bro,
on.
I'm going to give you guys this, my word, and I'm not even kidding you. When I watch Raw and I really have something to rant about, I'm going to come on your show and rant. Because I got to tell you something, honestly, that Bray Wyatt fiasco tonight, there's no excuse in the world for that. I mean, absolutely no excuse to me. I mean, I don't get it. So when I see stuff like that, I go banana, especially when you got somebody with that kind of talent. I mean, forget about it, bro,
Well, we'll be glad to have Vince Russo come down on the show every week after
Anytime.
a 3-hour Raw that we stayed awake for. All 3 hours.
And by the way, Vince, if you ever want to do it live, the White Castle is on us, my friend.
Oh, nice.
We almost got White Castle, but we didn't want.
I didn't want to tease you.
We didn't want to tease you your first time on the show.
Where are you guys shooting this from?
We are in Inwood, Long Island, 5 minutes down the road from JFK Airport right now.
Oh gosh, man, White Castle's nice.
Everyone loves a belly bomber.
Absolutely.
By the way, if you want to get the Vince Russo Fire Russo t-shirt, you can find that obviously at pyroandballyhoo.net.
.com.
Excuse me, .com. Here's .com.
Yeah, man, I'm here ranting at 12 o'clock at night. The guy can't get the website correct.
I actually double-checked with him, too, when he said, yeah, net.
I didn't hear. People do it to us all the time. Listen.
We're on a net. Our boys at Wrestling Rumors are on a net. But anyway, Vince, back to WWE, the product today. Is there any, what do you think is the biggest thing that is missing from their product today? Whether it be writing, creative direction, anything that you could think of. The first thing that comes to mind, the thing that WB is missing.
Bro, here's the great thing, okay? I hadn't talked to Stone Cold Steve Austin for 15 years, okay? We had our first conversation on Saturday. What was so cool about that, bro, was we both came from the same era, okay? We both lived that. The one thing Austin said, and I swear to you, this is how I've been describing the wrestling product. I'm not going to pinpoint just WWE, the product. And Steve said it. I didn't even have to say it. There's no sense of urgency. And what a sense of urgency means is I have to watch this show. I can't miss 1 minute of this show. Everything on the show is important. Not like one thing's important and the next 4 things suck. One thing's important, I don't need to watch. Everything on the show needs to be important. You've got to watch every minute. You can't afford to miss it. That's the sense of urgency, the here and the now. That does not exist in today's product.
That is really funny because in our chat room, as soon as we got on our show earlier tonight, someone said that WWE Raw is just not must-see anymore.
Nope.
If you miss it, it's no big deal.
Absolutely. The only time I feel like...
Here's the thing that I want to make perfectly clear, because this is what pisses me off. I'm not going to attack the creative. The reason is because everything is subjective. I get that all the time. People hated stuff I did that I freaking loved. Everything is subjective. You know what I hate and what drives me crazy? The freaking effort. When I look at a show and I see the effort that's put into it, that's what drives me crazy. I don't care, bro, if the creative falls short or the creative sucks, but you know they tried and you know the effort was put in. When you're watching as a writer and you're seeing little lack of effort, that's what drives you absolutely out of your mind. Out of your mind. There's no excuse for that.
You would have loved a couple of weeks ago then. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Raw every week, but we were I can't even imagine you. We were so frustrated leading up to that last Payback pay-per-view. I mean, they literally just floated and treaded water on Raw for 3 weeks leading up to the pay-per-view. And just, they were like, here's your pay-per-view match. And this is what it is, this is what it is, this is what it is. And that's all it was. And
go home show.
And it ended up being a fantastic pay-per-view because, Vince, you know what? If anything, they know how to put on pay-per-view still. They know how to give you the payoff. They know how to give you the wrestling match. But what's missing is what you used to do.
But
the actual storyline writing.
Do you know why?
Why is that?
The structure doesn't allow it. There's too many chefs. Bro, you have to, I can only imagine there, you probably got to go through layer after layer after layer after layer to get something approved. Yep. Trust me, bro, I've been in those type of situations, right? And basically, when it gets to a certain point, I used to say, "Screw it, bro. I'm not gonna drive myself crazy trying to convince other people this is gonna work." So I mean, bro, there were so many times, and it wasn't 10 levels high, but I mean, there were times that, you know, TNA. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, when I was working with Eric and I was working with Bruce, and you know, Hulk had an opinion. There got a point with me where I'm like, you know, bro, screw this. Here's the white flag, man. I'm waving the white flag because, like, as a writer, you can only try to sell your story so much. After a while, man, it's not worth it. It's like, okay, bro, what do you want to do? Let's do it. And I guarantee you that's what's happening there. There's no question about it.
And I'm sure a lot of listeners right now and people watching this interview or will watch it can relate to that. It's like going to a job every day and giving your best effort and still having your boss say F you and treat you like garbage. And eventually you're just going to start phoning it in because no matter what you do, it's not going to be accepted. And I'm sure you're pulling, you know, all-nighters, writing out some great stuff, and you think you're going to hand it in and help the company and everything else, and somebody's saying, no, we're not doing that. And that's going to frustrate anybody, and obviously, you're not going to put forth your best effort. I totally understand
Bro, the biggest problems I had in creative, okay, bro, that gave me the biggest problems was when I used to have to work with other people and I was involved in a committee. This is all outside of the WWE. I'm talking WCW, TNA, okay? Bro, people used to shoot stuff down because it was their opinion. And I used to sit there and say, your opinion means crap. My opinion means crap. Our opinions don't mean anything. All that matters is the rating. What are the people watching? Whether I hate a guy or love a guy, if he's drawing and the people are watching him, that's the guy I'm putting on the show. But I dealt with so many people that it was their opinion. If they didn't like it, they didn't want to see it. Same thing is going on there, bro. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and you know what? Now that you bring up that stuff, we talked a lot about WWE. Obviously, most people, you know, who are negative associate you with WCW, and supposedly Vince Russo was the death of WCW and all the other crap that I've heard for so long. And, you know, not even because you're from where we are and not even because we're fans, no ass kissing. I knew that was crap from the moment I heard it, even when I was a kid, because you could tell even before you stepped foot in the place that there was already a lot of problems going on in that company. And I know once AOL Time Warner got their hooks into WCW, they didn't even want a wrestling company. They did not want a wrestling show anymore. So you walked into that and gave your best effort, and I'm sure they made it hell for you. And I'm sure a lot of what you said at Bash at the Beach 2000 had to be legitimate shoot.
Well, bro, here's like what people don't understand, and this is a shoot. You know, first of all, people like, you know, the thing that always, like, it aggravates the crap out of me is, oh, I'm always making excuses for WCW. Well, bro, the first thing is when Ed and I first started, the rating before we started was a 2.9. Okay, three months later, we were at a 3.6. Okay, so like right there, I don't know what I'm making excuses for. Am I making an excuse for we walked into a 2.9 when they decided they wanted a change and I left, it was a 3.6? Am I making an excuse for that? What I don't know what I'm making an excuse for. And bro, the fact of the matter is, it's exactly what you said, bro. I was there for 2 weeks and that merger came down. 2 weeks I was on the job. And bro, as soon as that merger came down, little by little by little by little, you knew these guys did not want to be in the wrestling business. You knew where this thing was headed, and bro, we could have gotten the rating back up to a 4 or a 5 or a 6. It wouldn't have mattered. Time Warner and AOL, when they came aboard, did not want to be in the wrestling business for whatever. I don't know what that reason is. But I mean, bro, to blame me or to blame Eric or to blame I mean, it's so ridiculous, bro. Like I get so aggravated talking about it because it's just so ridiculous, man.
Well, let's talk about one of these specific instances that I know you always catch crap for, and I have to bring it up because again, I don't find anything that.
And it was brought up in the chat room.
And it was brought up in the chat room, and I'm talking about David Arquette winning the WCW title. My take first, I'm going to give it to you, and then I want to hear what you have to say, Vince. Here's my take. He never pinned a pro wrestler to win the belt. He pinned Eric Bischoff in a gimmick match, which was fine. He never defended the belt successfully against any wrestler. He lost it in his first title defense. It got you guys mainstream media, Entertainment Tonight, other things David was doing, running around TV, movie sets with Courtney Cox with the WCW title. It was all over the place. It served its purpose. And he lost it to a wrestler the first chance that he had. I don't understand how that gets voted the worst thing in wrestling history.
I can think of something worse. Mae Young giving birth to a hand.
And I hope you didn't write that one.
Well, that's another thing. You know how many times I get blamed for that? And I was working for WCW at the time. I mean, that's just a side note. But yeah, bro, there's nothing I can say because what you just said, I couldn't even add another word to that. I mean, that, bro, nobody, bro, again, it's like the internet wrestling community, and not everybody, okay, not everybody, but the loudest mouths, you know, they have opinions that they like to spin as fact. At the end of the day, bro, it's their opinion, okay? They didn't like it. No problem, bro. You didn't like it. That doesn't mean it sucked. That doesn't mean it was horrible. That doesn't mean it was the worst thing in wrestling history. All that means is you didn't like it. End of story.
And by the way, I heard you're not the man to blame on that because when Diamond Dallas
we had Paige on
was on this show, he spilled the beans and said that it was Tony Schiavone who first came up.
I just spoke to Tony on Friday. And, you know, I'm starting my own podcast at the beginning of July. Awesome. And I said, Tony, you're my first interview, and you are freaking coming clean to the entire world and telling everybody it was your freaking idea. And Tony was cracking up, and Tony said, Vince, I'll be glad to. To this day, I think it was the greatest idea in the world. I said, okay, then it's a date.
Yeah, we had Paige on here. He spilled it to us. We were like, "Get out of here, Schiavone," and Paige defended it all the way as well.
Absolutely. Actually, the couple of guys we spoke to really had nothing bad to say about you at all. Spoke to Luger, spoke to Paige,
bro. That's the funny thing. Like, I think it's hysterical because, like, you know, once I brought Tony out of the closet and let people know it came from him. Like, bro, people took it as like I'm trying to pass the heat to Tony Schiavone. No, bro, I'm putting the guy over for his idea. To this day, I love the idea. It got us everything that you said. I put Tony over for coming up with that idea.
I miss Tony Schiavone on commentary.
Me too.
We always say Schiavone was excellent.
I do too. I really do. He was great, man.
I really hope he makes it into the Hall of Fame as a commentator one day because he deserves it.
So I agree with you, bro. I think that would be great. I really do.
I gotta tell you a funny story quick because this is a Vince Russo famous moment in our little clique here.
Okay.
We're at a bachelor party 2 years ago in Boston, much like we're doing my bachelor party there this weekend for Money in the Bank. So my friend Steve is a big fan of your Bash at the Beach 2000 shoot. He watches it all the time. He loves it. So he literally calls up the other room of guys who are sleeping. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. And they pick up the phone, and the first thing you hear is, I got a wife, I got 2 kids, and I don't need this shit anymore. And he plays the whole Russo interview. We were on the floor, drunk crying. It was just a great moment. So you're definitely a classic in this house, no doubt.
And I'll tell you right now in the chat room, there are a couple of guys who all have their Vince Russo opinions.
Of course.
And I think right now we are turning some people into quote unquote hashtag Vince Russo guys tonight.
There we go.
Bro, and here's the thing that I tell people all the time, bro. It's like, I don't care if you hated what I did, but understand that's your opinion. Because you hated what I did doesn't mean what I did was bad. It means that you hated it. Bro, I'll go back to, I'm a huge Giants fan, San Francisco Giants. My father was a New York Giants fan, okay? I mean, I'm a diehard, okay? Bro, Bruce Bochy is the manager, okay? Bro, sometimes I don't like the decisions Bruce Bochy makes, but I'm intelligent enough to know that's my opinion. The guy's the manager of the team. He made that decision for a reason. I'm intelligent enough to understand that. But it's the Vince Russo haters that it's just, okay, we don't like what he did, so he sucks and we're going to hate him. Oh, okay, bro. Hate a guy that wrote a television show if that makes you happy. Well, I mean, what can I say?
Definitely. I have to agree with you.
Speaking of something that made a lot of people unhappy, Vince.
Are you guys getting this on screen?
We got it. HiramBallyhoo.com. Fire Russo. I wrote it in the chat room. It's going in. The shirts are on sale.
You're going to be getting tweets from us every couple of days.
Cheap pops all night.
Good, huge. You're good. The shirt's huge. The shirt is huge. Go ahead, fellas. I don't want to interrupt you.
Something that a lot of people were shocked with, unhappy with, the Undertaker streak ending. What are your thoughts on it? How would you maybe have booked it?
Well, you see, bro.
Where would you go from here?
I got to tell you something, bro. That again is, because I've been in that situation, right? I can't give you an honest opinion because I don't know the facts. I don't know why the streak ended. I don't know if it was Taker's idea. I don't know if, Taker's at the point now that maybe his body's beat up and he doesn't want to go on. Did Taker have a personal relationship with Brock and he wanted... I don't have a clue, bro. I don't know. So, like, for me to be able to sit here and comment on that, it would be totally uneducated on my behalf. So, like, that's why I wouldn't even do that. I don't know.
Well, I will say this, and I want your opinion on this. I don't know how much of Raw up into WrestleMania you did watch, and we'll find out when I ask you, but my opinion was this. Okay, Brock broke it. He's a powerhouse. He's a guy who definitely could be the one to break the streak. But the build to it was so awkward and felt like they really did not build like he had a legitimate chance. It's so funny to me because it seems like the year that it actually broke was the year that they took the least amount of effort and time and storyline to really build it up like Brock had a chance. I think the jaws dropping on everybody's face was the build-up from the smart wrestling fans realizing the past 3 weeks before WrestleMania, they didn't really build this up like he was going to do it. And then it was just that, like, holy shit, they just broke the streak. And I think that was more of the shock more than anything else because it didn't, the whole time it's building up, they didn't have Lesnar destroy him week after week, put him out for a week not to be seen, anything like that, like maybe you would have done back in the day. And then all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3, and the streak's over. I think that's what the shock was.
But you know what, bro? On the other side of that coin, maybe Taker didn't know what he wanted to do.
True.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe literally the weeks leading up to WrestleMania, Taker himself did not know, do I want to go on? Do I want to continue with this? I mean, so maybe that had something to do with it, and maybe he made a decision late. But I mean, unless you are involved in that, I mean, I couldn't tell you anything about it.
Where would you go with Brock from here, having done such a great big accomplishment like that?
Bro, I'm going to tell you this, and I hate to say this, and I hate to do this. Bro, I'm not giving anything away creatively for free. Nothing.
Good for you.
I'm not giving an idea on a talent. I'm not giving what they should do with so and so. The only reason I went off on Bray tonight is because to me that not only is it ridiculous, it's obvious. It's like if you can't see that, bro, you should not be in the position you're in. Because, that's obvious. But as far as creative, you pay me. I'm not talking about you. If a company wants to pay me, I'll tell them whatever they want to know. But I'm not giving them advice for free. Nobody help me out.
Well, since we're not going to get any up to current booking or any kind of ideas, can you name one guy from WWF and one guy from WCW who you would have liked to have seen maybe get pushed further, who in your mind you said, wow, that guy could be one of the top guys that may have never gotten there, that maybe you had in mind or somebody had in mind, it never came to fruition?
What do you mean by WWF? What time are you talking about?
Your time in WWF.
Your time working there. Somebody that you saw and said, this guy really could be a star, and maybe the people behind the scenes just didn't handle it right and he didn't make it.
For whatever reason.
I don't think in the WWF, I don't think there was anybody. Because, we did have control over who that was going to happen to. And, right. And if you stepped up to the plate and you delivered and the fans wanted you, there was... Bro, I could tell you this. When I was writing into WWE, I don't know about the boys and all that stuff. There was no politics as far as I was concerned. It was strictly 100% on performance and crowd response. End of story. So, really nobody. I think everybody was in the roles they should have been in, and I don't think there was anybody that we held back on. WCW, bro, that's just hard to say because it's like I was so in and out. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I was there, in the trenches for a long period of time. I was there for 3 months. I went home for 3 months. I came back for a couple of more months. Then I went home again. So that one's just hard for me to really, really answer.
Having worked behind the scenes with a guy like Triple H, and I know I've seen some of your other interviews, and I'm sure our fans have, where you've said that he was really one of the guys that you liked backstage, and you could tell that he had a good work ethic, and you even wanted your kids to look up to somebody like him. How do you feel the company sits in a guy's in his hands right now, with his direction, with his wrestling mind? Is he good enough to really take the reins and run with it?
Well, bro, see, here's the key. Hunter was a really, really, really smart guy. I'm sure that hasn't changed. He had a great wrestling mind. He loved the business. I'm sure that hasn't changed. But here's the difference. When you're in that position, you're going to do it either one or two ways. You're going to either do every single thing you want to do and not listen to anybody else, okay? Or you're going to have good people around you that are going to give good ideas and good suggestions, and you're going to be open to taking those. In Hunter's role, I don't know how he works in that capacity. I don't. That would have a big effect on what my opinion would be of him in that role, but not being there and not seeing how he works. That's just a really hard question to answer.
All right. Well, we both think he's doing an excellent job on screen anyway.
Absolutely.
In that new role. So
I think he is going through a lot of politics and stuff backstage, because even with the power that he has being in the family, he always still has to answer to somebody. We know who that is, and there's an old school way of doing things that maybe he can't get around over there. And he has his critics on the internet too. He's not without them for sure. Definitely has those. I never could stand that because I always saw the talent in him. And like you said, he's got a great wrestling mind. No doubt about it. By the way, Vince, we were very pissed off back in the day. We were promised a Starrcade at Nassau Coliseum, and we never got one over here, bro. What's up with that?
He wasn't working there for that 3 months.
I probably wasn't.
You announced it, though. Do you remember that you actually announced that there was going to be a Starrcade on Nitro, and then it never came out?
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. Oh, man, we went crazy because, I don't know if you remember exactly, I happened to go to all the events. WCW was locked out in the New York area for a long time. And then when it did come back, we had 5 Nitros, and 2 house shows at the Coliseum.
A couple of really good
and
shows.
then we were going to get our very first pay-per-view, which would have been that Starrcade. And then the Russo era came to an end, and everything went downhill from there. So
yeah, I don't even remember that.
it's something we always talk about. I have a good friend, Chris, who's a big WCW fan, so we always talk about that. But you know what? It was good while it lasted. Something we talked about earlier, and this was a big, big moment in your career that I remember because it was 2 great WCW wrestling figureheads coming together on the same night. Talking about the night that you and Bischoff took over on screen the New Blood, the Millionaires Club. Joe and I both thought that was a pretty good storyline. Obviously, you have these new up-and-coming talent. They're pissed off that the other guys are getting all the shots. They're getting all the money. And obviously, you have guys like Hogan, Sid, Flair, all of them who are...
Savage came in for one night.
Yes.
I loved it.
So, I liked it. I mean, were you guys... Did you think that was going to work out? How were things really with you and Bischoff at the time running things? Were you really able to give it your all creatively, or were there still a lot of restrictions holding it down?
Bro, I got to tell you, and I'm going to be like as open and honest like as I always am. You know, and again, bro, that gets back to like why I really get pissed off, of certain people in the internet wrestling community, because they'll ask me a question, but they already have the answer in their head of what they think the answer is and what the answer is. So it's like I can sit here till I'm blue in the face and tell you the truth, but in your mind, you already have your truth, so it doesn't matter what I say. And that's one of the things that really annoys me more than anything. I'm going to shoot perfectly straight concerning my relationship with Eric Bischoff, okay? First of all, I do not have an unkind word to say about that man. I mean, not one. Eric and I were on very, very different sides of the fence, okay? The reason why that is really simple, okay? Eric grew up with Vern Gagne and AWA in Minnesota. Vince Russo grew up with WWE in New York, okay? So when you have these totally different kind of upbringings in the business, bro, your philosophies are going to be completely different. So like, unlike Jim Cornette, who wants to see me dead because Memphis wrestling isn't my style, okay? I never had a personal issue or beef with Eric because, bro, I knew where he was coming from. I knew we looked at things differently. So you have to understand that on not one occasions, but 2 occasions, Eric and I were forced to work together. Not once, but twice. So, as professionals, we were put together. We were forced to work together. I know, I'm not going to speak for Eric, I know I had to work very, very hard at that relationship because we didn't see things eye to eye, because our philosophies were completely different. I had to work very, very hard at the relationship. But I mean, bro, that goes to show you, the people at the top at that time, bro, you just can't put 2 people with completely different backgrounds and expertise and experience together and expect it to work. And I mean, I certainly wasn't going to get hot at Eric or have any heat at Eric or get mad with Eric because he saw things differently, because he grew up in a different region and a different time and a different place in wrestling than I did. I mean, I totally got it and understood it. So, like I said, because of that, bro, we're put together not once, but twice. And, bro, 95% of the time, we had to really, really work at that relationship.
Really appreciate you being on tonight, Vince. Our fans are going crazy. They love the show. Twitter's blowing
They
up.
gonna buy the shirt?
They have to buy the shirt. Guys, buy the shirt.
I put it in there twice, 3 times now.
Listen,
I got it, bro.
You're gonna see a whole bunch of mentions on Twitter from us for a while now because we love Vince Russo. We loved having you on, and we're definitely going to be helping you put over the website and the Twitter handle. There's no question.
I appreciate that.
Anytime, man. Listen, everybody out there, I know there's going to be a lot of people listening over the next couple of days who didn't watch this live. pyroandballyhoo.com. Great movie reviews, talking about hot women, and of course talking about plenty of wrestling and old school wrestling stories. I love the articles, everything you guys do on there. I hope it keeps expanding for you. I wish you all the luck in the world. And Vince, do not forget what you said earlier, because you do have an open invite. Anytime that you say, man, I can't stand what I just saw on Raw and I need to let it out, we are here live every single week. And you come
you got it, man. You got it, no problem.
Ever in the New York area, you get here, I'm going to Limbrook, I'm getting White Castle, and I'm bringing it back.
Got to get a sack, though.
Yeah,
you got it.
Get your own crave case, Vince.
Crave case.
No doubt about it. Thank you, buddy. You have a good night. We really appreciate you coming on, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Guys, anytime. Thanks a lot, man.
Take care.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for a special Wrestle Reaction with Vince Russo tonight. Frank Manzo, Joe Omega. We'll be up in Boston for Money in the Bank this weekend, and we will see you back here live after Raw Monday night. And I hope you enjoyed the Russo interview. Many more things to come from Wrestle Reaction. Check us out every week, WrestleReaction.net. Good night, everyone. Enjoy Money in the Bank.